Grab your beverages and turn up your interweb.
Coming to you live from the Spokesman in Austin, Texas, it's the Dudes and Beer Podcast.
Well, hello everybody. I am Chris Jordan, your host, and welcome to the official episode 109 of the Dudes and Beer Podcast. Coming to you live from the brand new Spokesman here in South Austin, Texas, over in the yard at St. Elmo. With me tonight, as always, is the stalwart Stephen Bishop, as well as the amazing Julie Connally over here running PR and taking care of the contests, things like that. Please feel free to hop over, visit Julie, like our Facebook page, and be entered to win some fantastic drawings and prizes tonight. With us also is actually owner and creator, one of the owners and creators of the Spokesman, and that is CJ. How are you doing today, CJ?
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me.
We have CJ West. Thank you so much for being on, man.
Yeah.
Well, explain to us a little bit, because you've been involved in the Austin brewing scene for a while, things like that. Give us a little bit about your history and what kind of brought you to create the Spokesman as it is and bring this awesome neighborhood place to be.
Well, all right, here we go. I started my career back in 2007 with Uncle Billy's, which is over on, everybody knows Uncle Billy's. It's down there. I got in on the opening crew, which is really cool. I actually got hired without a job, and I at first thought they were fucking with me because they were like, oh, yeah, come on. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I show up, and I'm not on the schedule. I'm like, what do you want me to do? And they're like, oh, you just wait for somebody to get fired and then just step up.
Yeah,
I'm like,
just
oh,
wait
okay.
your turn.
Yeah, I'll just be over here in the corner.
Sounds like life as a sound guy.
Yeah, exactly. I just grinded and paid attention and saw an opportunity, started busting my ass in the bar, and shortly became a bartender. And after about 7 months or so, found myself managing the bar, which was really interesting. So did that and got to start working in the brewery, which was super exciting with my mentor, the big chief, Brian Swifty Peters. That guy's awesome. So he really took me under his wing as much as he could, and let me clean some stuff. And I felt like a cool dude because I was wearing boots, and everybody was like, "What's up with those boots?" Yeah, I'm like, don't worry about it.
Big boots and cleansing materials and brushes and
I worked that squeegee hard. So, I did that for a bit, and then, as Uncle Billy started getting a little bit more recognition, we started winning some medals, which is great. Yep. And, I guess the abridged version was we just kept doing it, and then we decided we could do this on our own. So Amos Lowe came on, and he started brewing. He took over the Barton Springs location, which was awesome. Learned a lot from him. That dude just rolled in as Zen Master, and everybody was kind of taken back from him because here's this dude that comes from an engineering background like most brewers do, but, he does yoga and drinks wine and smokes cigars instead of just drinking beer and eating bologna sandwiches.
Good combination.
Yeah. I learned a lot from Amos, and he was awesome once we got him on the team. And then, of course, there was Tim Stevens, who was, Fat Jesus. He was working daytime in the bar, and before he was even cooking, he was daytime bartender. So we had this daytime, nighttime beer crew, and then we had the brewers. So we started to develop this really tight crew, and of course going to GABF and all around to CBCs and things like that. We were just like, man, this is awesome. Like, we're going to do this. So started talking about ABGB, and they're like, oh, CJ will run the bar, and, Jesus will run the kitchen. We're just like, yeah, okay, cool. And, we close our tab, go home, sleep it off.
Oh, yeah.
Do it again tomorrow. It finally became a reality right around the summer of 2013, and we took over what was an old kind of, it's a warehouse, but it's where they used to distribute a lot of beer from Belgium. And it's actually Vicky Jones and her group. They were single-handedly responsible for bringing Belgian beer into Texas. So we took over that warehouse and built up ABGB and started rocking it, which was really cool. Nice. And then about a year after that, I got tapped by Kevin Rourke, who's a good buddy of mine, who was brewing at the North By location up north. And he was like, hey, man, we're looking for a assistant brewer to build this second location in Circle C. So I was like, hell yeah, I want to do that. That sounds awesome. And so right around that time, I'd already been developing the concept for this, but I didn't really talk too much about it because there's plenty of people that are talking about what they're going to do. So I didn't want to be another one.
Well, and you do kind of have to, even with stuff like this, like whenever I started Dudes and Beer, you kind of have to keep things under your hat until you're ready to launch.
Yeah.
Things can be taken so rapidly, intellectual property,
Oh, yeah,
concepts,
that's a big one.
ideas, especially when it comes to trademarks. I mean, there's a brewery that I follow online who's become a fast friend of the podcast, and lo and behold, they were literally getting ready to start build the place, and it was like, oh, apparently we didn't check international copyrights
Yeah.
and trademarks.
What do you mean we
and
can't be
now-
Walt Disney
yeah,
Brewing
now
Company?
dang. No Mickey Mouse Brewing allowed.
That happens a lot there, yeah.
But, literally, like doing trademark and
Yeah.
stuff like that, like it is such a process trying to get a business started.
True.
And just the fact that you already had those shoulders to lean on, you already had those people in that experience of starting from the ground with something and building it up and then moving on. Because, it does get to a point, like I've even done it with broadcast and stuff where, you can only go so far with one thing before you have to take the next progression, before you have to take that next just logical career step.
Yeah, absolutely. And you definitely got to play your cards close. You got to play it safe. There's been times where I've been sitting at a bar and I've overheard some dude at the end like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that," and I'm
That
just like,
sounds
"Holy
great.
shit, that's a really good idea."
Yeah.
Write that on a little
on that
napkin
down.
here.
Yeah.
But yeah, just playing it close. And so back when I was at ABGB, I started to develop this concept of a coffee shop, bike shop, beer shop kind of thing. And I had been traveling quite a bit with my time at Uncle Billy's, and so I had the opportunity to go to Portland and San Diego and Denver and all these really cool cities, San Francisco, and I always had this affinity for coffee, and it was like my little secret. So anytime we'd go to a beer event, you'd find me sneaking out early to go look at coffee shops and ride my bike around and stuff like that. And then, of course, once the day would get going, I'd
Scope it
put
out.
on my trucker hat and be like, no, I'm in the brewing, man.
Yeah.
I
The
got
other
this
brewing,
beard.
the
I got
other
this beard. But yeah, so I started working on this concept and then quickly started talking with Trey about it, which our wives know each other, and they were always trying to get us together. They would always be like, "Oh, you guys are so like each other. Y'all should hang out." And I'm
I
like,
can appreciate that.
"I don't need any friends. Thank you. I don't need a dude date. Appreciate you. I choose my own friends." But no, we went and hung out, and we had some margaritas at Curra's, and we were actually just going to shoot the shit and talk. I wasn't even planning on discussing the business aspect with him, but at the time he was with Wright Brothers, and they had just opened just before ABGB, and so we just started talking about this, that, and the other, and
kind of led into it.
just led into it, and
Felt comfortable.
yeah, I
started
felt
talking about
comfortable. And service industry people, they do this thing where they get off work and they talk about their work.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
The same thing with
Yeah.
AV, and it's funny because, like, I tell people all the time, I started a podcast to socialize because otherwise, my other podcast, Talking Sound, is nothing but text.
Yeah.
So it's people that I work with. And
Yeah.
it's like, I really need to start hanging out with people outside
Yeah,
of my
exactly.
industry at some point. So what did I do? I started another podcast.
Yeah. You created something totally
That
that's, like,
obsession
very
just
similar.
took over again
Smart.
and
Yeah.
spiraled. But
Very similar to take your mind off the same thing that you're trying to get away
you
from.
know, but it's totally different. It's one that I thoroughly enjoy. There's not nearly as much like post-production involved. It's not video. It's much more fun and off the cuff like this.
Yeah.
Where, we're out live at locations and stuff like that and finding out about passionate people like you who are starting passion projects, living their life via their passions. People like Richard Adams over here with Breach TV, stuff like that. Who just start new fantastic things.
Like what
that are
makes you want to
groundbreaking.
do it, what makes you tick, and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So after a while, Trey and I got to rolling, and he was just like, well, how would you do this? And I was like, well, I do it like that. And he's like, oh, okay, how would you do this? And I'm like, well, I do it like this. And you could see the gears turning in his head.
Yeah.
And then when I saw the gears turning in his head, I was like, oh, shit, I should see if he wants to get in on this with me, And so from right there, Spokesman was
But before
born.
that, you were pretty kind of like, closed off a little bit, right?
Oh, yeah, I didn't say shit about it. There was a lot of people that...
What made you kind of like trust him as much as you did? What made you...
I knew where he lived.
Yeah.
That's a
there you go.
plus.
Yeah,
That's a
I knew
plus.
where he
If you-
lived. I knew
yeah.
his dog's name.
Yeah,
I was like, well, if this goes south,
You know where his children sleep.
yeah, I know where he hides his key.
Things like that. And you know,
Good point.
because it is something interesting. Whenever you're building something like that, starting something like that, there is this guttural trust that
Yeah.
has to happen. There really is that simpatico.
Sure.
That if it doesn't jive, you need to just kind of put it aside.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
and-
And when it works, it works, and you know
Yeah.
it. And once we decided to really start moving forward with that, I did what any sane person would do, which is ask every single person I know, "What do you think of this dude?"
Yeah.
What's up with this guy? And all across the board, it was pretty much the same. And I hate to say it, and I don't want to give her too much credit, but I do trust my wife's opinion.
Amen to that.
And if she says something, it's like, okay, she probably knows what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so we just went from there. So he got us all legal. We got our LLC. We got our business plan locked down.
Oh, fantastic.
Once we teamed up, it was just like, okay, boom, boom, boom. Like,
Yeah.
there we go.
Just fell in line.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we just started doing that. And right about the same time that happened is when I got offered the position at North by Northwest. And I was like,
okay.
oh, shit, this is perfect. I can go build another brewery that has a larger kitchen and just learn more. This is going to benefit me. And at the time, I got hired on as the assistant brewer at ABGB, but there was Swifty and Amos who were in the brewery, and they're in their 40s. They ain't going nowhere. They still got 20 years of brewing. So it's like, okay, where am I going to go? How am I going to fit in this equation? And it was a difficult decision, man, because I love those dudes and I really look up to them, and they set the standard for me for all aspects of my life, whether they know it or not. And I was pretty scared. I didn't want to jump out and do my own thing. But at the same time, I didn't want to be like, well, the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm thinking about doing this. And, it's not even a reality.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting because you totally see who your real friends are
Yes.
when you go
Yes.
off and do something. And I had a lot of people outside of that circle that were just looking at me like I was crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Why the fuck are you leaving
Yeah.
ABGB? You're
Yeah.
in the brewery. You're there. Like, why
Yeah,
are you going to
you're
go
in,
work
like,
for
you're-
North by?
Yeah,
Are you
you're in like
nuts?
Flynn. What would you
Yeah.
leave a perfectly
There's that crowd.
successful place
Exactly.
for?
And it was really beneficial for me because I saw through a lot of people's bullshit.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, okay, you were only talking to me because I was with these people, not
Yeah.
because of anything else. And it's
Yeah.
like, noted.
Yeah, now
And
I
a,
got you.
and a
Check.
few of those people have walked into the bar, and the amount of ass kissing that they're trying to do now is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
No.
But
and
I mean,
Only after the fact that where you're at now, right?
sure,
You know what I
sure.
mean? Yeah.
And that also went back into the whole, I didn't want to talk about it. And man, that destroyed me, having to tell Swifty and Amos that I was leaving to go work for another brewery, but not really why.
Yeah.
Because I knew that if I kept on with it, it would pay off and they would see why instead
Yeah.
of me explaining and all that other stuff.
But see, what's funny is there's an adjunct of Dudes and Beer called Thinking Deeply, where it's just me waxing philosophic about stuff. But we
Cool.
literally just did an episode about the importance of mentors for adults.
Oh, for sure.
And, I never thought that I would actually find myself at the age of 41 saying, what I need is a really good mentor in my industry right now.
Yeah,
I need
for sure.
somebody who's been doing this for 20 years longer than me to come in and tell me what's up.
Yeah.
And the thing is, a good mentor, someone like that, someone like ABGB, whenever you go to spread your wings, they're not just going to push you out of the nest. They're going to put a fan behind you.
Sure.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
They're going to
Want you
make
to
sure
succeed,
that they
you know?
want to see you succeed.
Yeah.
Because it's not a point of competition. It's a point of growing the industry.
Yeah.
It's a point of growing the culture and everything else.
Absolutely.
And it's so hard coming from the aspect of rock and roll that I do and working in rock clubs. There seems to be this competition between rock clubs when it's like, hey, man, you cater to a totally different audience than we do. Why are we competing?
Yeah.
Like we should totally
We're all
be
one and the same.
We should be feeding off each other's nights.
Yeah.
Right.
When we're down the block from each other, we shouldn't be competing for stuff.
And you're always
so.
greater in numbers, help each other out, It's
Oh, for sure.
There
Yeah.
you go. There it is right there.
Yeah, and did
Absolutely.
you find that from those guys whenever you did actually step out that they were supportive of
Oh,
what
for
you
sure,
were doing?
for sure.
And-
Yeah. And, once I went to North by, it was really interesting because I got to work up on the North location, which that's a weird area up there. It's like a whole nother town.
Oh, yeah.
And I took on the challenge of trying to ride my bike up there.
Ooh.
And so I was riding 16 miles a day,
Oh.
5 days a week up there.
Ooh.
And
You're in shape now, though.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's honestly one of the interesting things about Spokesman, because Spokesman isn't just a brew house that has local pints on tap. It's a brew house. It's got beer, and it also roasts its own coffee.
Yep.
It's also a cafe,
Yep.
and it's also a bike-themed restaurant.
Yeah,
Like, ride
yeah.
your bike. Go over here on the wall. They got
Yeah.
bike racks hung up.
Yeah,
All kinds of stuff.
I know. I know our listeners can't see, but we have
Yeah.
14 bike hooks. We have
Yeah.
14 dedicated bike
Yeah, yeah.
spots inside. Like we want people to ride their bikes, and
Yep.
especially with
I want to say I heard your bike rack over there was specially made and custom made.
it was.
Yeah.
Who told you that? I'm just kidding.
Well, and not just that, but the artwork itself. Tell us a little bit about the decor of the place, because y'all actually
Sure.
had an amazing artist come in. and
Yeah.
do some great graffiti work on the walls and stuff.
Yeah,
Tell us
that's
a little bit about that.
I love it.
that's the homie Bricks. For everybody listening, Bricks loves you. BRIKS. Bricks is an awesome dude, and I was really into all of his work. I was
Yeah.
a big fan of his for years. And ironically, so was Trey, but he didn't know it was the same artist. And so
wow.
originally, when we finally got to the point in the business where we're like, okay, we need a logo, we need all of our branding, who should we go with? I was like, man, we got to get this guy Bricks. I don't know who he is, mythical creature,
yeah.
age, gender. I had no idea who
Unicorn
he
of the
was.
spray can.
Exactly. And so I kept telling Trey, I was
a
like,
spray can.
spray can, exactly. I kept telling Trey, I was like, man, we got to get Bricks. And he's like, all right, cool. I'll reach out to him. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm like, yeah, go to bed. And a couple days later, I'm like, hey, did you ever hear anything? He's like, no. A couple weeks go by, still didn't hear anything.
Here we go.
And so I'm like, hey, what's up with Bricks? And he's like, well, he must be too busy. He won't return our calls. I'm like, oh, bummer. So we just kept moving forward, and we're like, well, what if we go with a more, traditional kind of like clean logo,
Yeah, sure.
And so we reached out to Jed Rogers, who runs Rogers Design House. Super
Okay.
cool dude, cyclist as well. He's done a lot of work here in town, and my wife used to work at Jack and Adams, so he knew his wife, or I'm sorry, my wife knew his wife and him from coming into the shop. And so,
It is an incestuous culture here
oh
in
man,
Austin.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
I'm just trying to pick my year to run for mayor because
Yeah.
I know it'll come one day. And I mean mayor of the yard, not mayor of Austin.
Yeah.
Just this
Like,
block
like,
right
yeah,
here.
Just like the
Hell
next,
yeah.
the 3-block
Yeah,
radius.
I think I got a good in. But yeah, so anyways, Jed designed our logo, which was great, and the project continued, and we started getting into construction, and then all of a sudden, Trey was like, well, what are we going to do with our walls? I'm like, man, I know that you reached out to him, but we got to get this guy Bricks.
Yeah.
And Trey was just kind of like, well, if you want him, you can find him. And I'm like, all right, challenge accepted, dude. And
I'll take that.
so I went online, and I went to Bricks' webpage, and there was a contact button, and I
Yeah.
clicked it, and it took me to an email, and I sent him an email, and 4 hours later he responded.
Yeah.
It was really funny, and just being able to put that in Trey's face and be
Yeah.
like, oh, check this
hey,
out,
check it
dude.
out, bro.
Yeah. So
Can't say I haven't been there.
yeah, and Trey and I are very much alike, so there's definitely a lot of like brotherly love that goes back and
Brotherly
forth.
one-upsmanship.
Oh, very much so. And there's times
One up
where
every time, right?
I'll see him getting upset, and I'll poke.
Yeah.
Just to see how far I can take it, and then
Yeah,
be like,
yeah.
"Why are you getting mad, dude? Why are you getting mad? Like, yeah, why are you hitting yourself?" And so so we got in contact with Bricks, and luckily he was really into coffee and all this other stuff, and he was in between projects, which was really cool. And so we're like, total perfect timing. There's been this whole project has just been
How long did it
Perfect.
take him to do all this?
a 3-day weekend.
A 3-day week.
Yes, one whole 3-day
Wow.
weekend. No,
And
just
folks-
everybody's faces out here like, holy shit,
I'm
are you
here to
serious?
tell you, like,
No, actually, he
there
was.
is not a single stencil work on this wall. Nothing here is repetitive. There
Sure.
is not
Nah,
a
it's
single
all-
thing
it's
that's
all off the
repeated
dome.
anywhere. It's all like even if you go into the restrooms, like every single character is individual.
Yep.
Right.
They
exactly.
were all made.
Yeah.
I noticed
The
that.
whole
as I was
place is
taking
a
big
walking
leak.
work of art. Like you could literally walk around this place like a museum
Yeah.
for about an hour.
And we
just
always
see works of
joked
art.
during construction, we're just like, well, this is Bricks' gallery, and we just created a concession, so,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Right.
You just created Barnum's egress.
Yeah,
To
exactly.
the museum. Like, please exit through the gift shop on
Yeah.
your way out.
No, Bricks was on the project with us for about 5 months, so we became really good friends. When
Oh,
he
wow.
first showed up to talk to Trey and I about the concept and what we wanted to do, we vibed instantly, and we were just like, oh, okay,
Nice.
this guy's a homie. We're really into what he's doing. He's really into what we're doing, and we kind of just gave him free range. You know, that's one thing that we were really specific about. We're like, look, we don't want to influence you in any way because we're already sold on the end product. You know,
Yeah.
we just want you to do something that you want to creatively and really spread your wings and do something cool. And yeah, he did it.
Dude, that's the way to go.
Yeah, he totally did it. And none of them are stencils. This is all
Yeah.
spray paint.
It's
This is
all
all,
freehand.
you know, no projectors, no stencils, no layouts, nothing. Like,
Yeah.
this is all freehand. And everything in the bathroom, I would say there's hundreds, up in the 300 or 400s of characters in each bathroom, and none repeat.
No, I've
which
been
is crazy.
here a few times over since y'all had your grand opening, and I came to grand opening day. I came in for a little while the other day, just spuriously, and then today for a few hours before we started. And I tried in the bathroom because I was challenged by my friend Julie Connally's husband Brian the other day. Like, try to find something that repeats in the bathroom. And
Nope.
I've
Nothing
not
there.
found anything.
Nothing there.
Every single thing is individual, and
Yep.
it's great.
Would you say Bricks, would this be one of his biggest jobs or accomplishments?
Absolutely. There was a lot of firsts on this project for him, which we were super proud. I mean, the interactive piece that's right up here with the projector.
Yeah,
That's my favorite.
Super meta.
Like as an audiovisual guy who does like corporate AV for a living and sees a lot of set pieces that surround rear projection.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, y'all are going front projection here, but
Right.
still, the fact that it's like an old school click clack TV,
Yep.
Yeah.
and you're showing nothing but like old school kung fu movies.
Yep.
Like the other day when I was in here, y'all were showing like Glow. Like gorgeous ladies of wrestling.
Yeah,
was
yeah.
on, and,
Yeah.
it was
Some
so-
ra-
old
it was-
school there.
Some wrestling.
It was
Yeah,
wrestling,
yeah.
exactly. It wasn't even
Wrestling
wrestling.
going
It was wrestling.
Shit all over the mic, wrestling.
Like when everybody was in like
Yeah.
pastels,
Exactly.
and shredded shirts.
Everyone's got a
It was-
gut and giant
yeah.
biceps, and
Yeah.
they're tucked into a sock.
It was
like,
classy.
what?
It was
Somehow they're in
classy.
shape with that good.
Now,
Yeah.
the bike theme. How long? Because that's something that comes from true passion. I mean, I myself. At one point was a bike rider in life until I moved to places that were not Houston and weren't flat.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not so much a bike rider anymore because there are hills, you see.
Yep. There are hills. They do exist.
But the bike culture in and of itself here in Austin is rampant. It's huge.
Yeah.
What was it that made you want to incorporate that into your location?
Well, Trey and I didn't want to go for a theme. We wanted to do something that represented our influence of growing up in Texas.
Okay.
You know, there's German influence, there's Mexican influence, there's Spanish influence, Schlitterbahn, Six
Yep.
Flags,
Oh, yeah.
kolaches,
Yep.
all that good stuff. But for us, we just love bikes. You know, Trey's
Yeah.
into motorcycles. I'm into motorcycles. I've been riding a bike since before I could walk.
Well, you obviously
Nice.
rode a bike 16 miles to get
Yeah.
to work every
Yeah,
day.
I did. Yeah, and it was awesome.
And
I mean, I still got the shop bike that's up on the rack, and like about an hour or so ago, I had to go grab a keg from St Elmo to clean some lines. And just take the bike down there, and everyone's giving me the weird looks in the parking lot as I'm riding my bike holding this keg cleaner.
Holding a keg in one hand.
Yeah.
Now that's some skill, dude. If you can
Oh,
balance
yeah.
yourself with a keg in one
Yep.
hand, that's mad skills.
But yeah, it's just it's an appreciation, and there's a lot of things that I've learned on a bike that I could have never learned in a classroom or by making mistakes. There's just being on two wheels for me is something that's very spiritual. It's something that has really shaped me as a person and allowed me to be in certain situations at the right time. So
Yeah.
I love bikes. They're awesome. They're
Yeah.
so fun. And a lot of times, like if I'm feeling stressed or if I can't figure something out, I'll just jump on my bike, go ride around, clear my head. Because when you're on the bike or when you're on the motorcycle, you can't talk on the phone. You can't
No.
text. Nobody
No.
can get a hold of you. You know,
Yeah.
you
You better not be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
you're doing your thing.
it's
man.
a certain freedom,
last long.
you know, that it's strange to me because I'm not very young, but I'm not very old, you know, and there's people that are my age that don't ride bikes and
Yeah.
they live
Very
within
true. Very
a
true.
half mile from where they work. And it's like, get off your fucking ass and either
ride a-
walk,
yeah,
ride a
ride a
bike, or something. Like,
Yeah,
stop bitching
yeah.
about traffic when you are traffic. You know, get some exercise, sweat, and that beer is going to taste a lot better when you do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's
Man,
right.
ain't
Nice
that
little
the
carb
truth.
load at the end of your ride. On the
Yeah,
way home.
exactly.
And for me, bike riding was one of those. Like you said, it brought up freedom because when I was a kid, That's what I did when I got home. I was a latchkey kid.
Mm-hmm.
I came home. If I did homework, then I did it, and then I went out and I rode my bike until I knew that, like, Mom would be calling.
Yeah.
You know, to make sure things were done for the evening before she went to school, something like that. And, you know, it was a very intimate relationship. And just the whole concept of that, like, I know one of my favorite coffee shops in Katy was the Wake Up. And it was interesting because they actually catered to bikers as a coffee shop.
Whoa.
And yeah, like they actually had like an active repair room.
Like cyclists or motorcyclists?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there are a lot of riding clubs in Katy, Texas and stuff like that. So it was like, hey, yeah, come on by here for your little caffeine boost.
Cool, yeah.
Before you hit up, you know,
In and
there'd
out.
be like a group of like 20 people getting their, like, pre-order their coffee and come get on the road. And if they had a problem on the way back to their car, they'd stop and they had like a little repair shop in the back.
Yeah.
You know, where they could get their bike tuned up or get the tube changed,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So it was a really interesting concept. And to me, y'all taking it a step further and not only encouraging people to bring their bikes, having a place to rack up their bikes, but actively roasting your own coffee.
Yeah, that's where it's at, man.
It is where it's at, number one. I lived in Portland, Maine for a long time, and it was awesome because I lived directly up the hill from a brewery and a coffee roaster.
Whoa.
And it was a little harsh on the days where they did dark roast, and then they would do like their porter, you know, because it's a little harsh. You're smelling some burned
Yeah,
coffee
exactly.
for quite a while uphill. But the whole concept of coffee roasting in and of itself now has taken on a life of its own in America. And the concept of small batch coffee has taken off, especially coffee from Chiapas, things like that, Shane Grove coffee, that kind of stuff. Explain to us a little bit about this awesome machine that you have lit over here right now.
machine.
Oh, man, that's
what
our,
that's all about, and the
looks
coffee
pretty serious.
brewing here. At
Yeah.
Spokesman.
That's our Ambex roaster. We're super happy about that. Actually, there was a dude in last night. He came in right before close, and he's Bud Light, Miller Light drinker, and he hugs the bartender up there. He's like, "Hey, what's that over there? Time machine?"
Yeah, jump in and do
Yeah,
it. See
I
what
was
happens.
like, "Yeah, totally."
Go for it.
Yeah. No, but we're super happy to have the roaster in house. You know, to be able to have that quality of control and just being able to really educate people and get them excited about coffee and really think on a local level. You know, there's a lot of coffee shops that are awesome, but they get coffee from out of state, and that's not really doing much for us.
Nah.
You know, as a state, as a neighborhood, as anything local. You know, so being able to roast here on site has always been a dream for Trey, being from the coffee scene. We're very much, he's the coffee side, I'm the beer side.
Nice.
But there's an appreciation on both ends for the other, and we're stoked to be able to do this in house because we never thought we would be able to, you know. And
Right.
the way that we worked it into the business plan was great, and it's given us a lot of just freedom to do what we want instead of being at the mercy of what's available.
Well, and explain that a little bit, what you mean by it's giving you the freedom, because not a
what
lot
do
of
you mean by
people
that?
understand the regulations
Sure.
behind that kind of
Sure. Well, I mean, I think we all know freedom isn't free.
stuff. Nope. True.
Right.
Licenses cost money.
Yeah. The freedom that I'm talking about is
Tons of
basically, you know, everybody's got a different palate. Everybody's got a different preference on how they like things. And, you know, with Trey, he definitely is tuned in and dialed to what it is that he wants. And he has the freedom to pinpoint exactly what he wants out of each one of these beans on the roasting side and the extraction side, you know, both with our recipes for everything from espresso to drip to, you know, all of that stuff. So it just makes it a lot more personable, you know, because we're not using other people's methods to make our product. Like everything that you see here, we have thought about, we have dialed in, we have trialed and errored, and we have tried to shoot holes into. And so this is just, you know, just making it us, making it ours.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, when it comes to that, how often are y'all actually roasting batches of beans, things like that? Is it something that you're doing like on a weekly basis? Or?
Yeah, how often?
Right now we're roasting about 3 to 5 times a week.
Okay.
We have the ability to roast round the clock. But right now, our main focus is getting the cafe side up and running, making sure that we have enough retail available on site.
Yep.
And then we will continue to grow as needed.
Yeah,
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, and explain to people the cafe part of it, because that's really the last component is the brew house and the cafe.
Yeah, the cafe is, I mean, for us is first and foremost. You know, it's a bit misleading when you walk in because you're so overly stimulated. You're just like, oh my God, what the fuck is this? Holy shit, look at that.
Yeah.
Whoa.
No, it's
is that
everywhere.
a fucking projector screen?
Yeah.
You're just like, wow, where's the bathroom? You know, so for the coffee side or for the cafe, it's really awesome because we open at 7 a.m. every day.
wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That early.
7
That's
a.m. So we offer espresso service and retail bags available to go, which is really awesome. So the cafe side for us, it's very important, and it's an honor to be called a cafe here in town.
Yeah.
Because we are doing it with all the passion that is in our body.
Yeah.
We have food that's provided by Crema, which is this really talented bakery in
Yeah.
Southwest Austin.
I love crema.
Yeah, crema is pretty incredible.
Crema's
Really.
awesome.
Dude, I almost forgot Julie. had
I
one.
totally forgot you were
I know,
there.
I'm here. Hey, so I'm chiming in because Nelson has messaged us to wonder what motorcycles you have.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
Good question.
I have a 1976 Yamaha XS650, and it sounds like this. Brap, brap.
Well, that's all right. You've got bicycles.
And we also have Dean Larinaga, who says he's going to come here and get jacked on espresso before going to work.
Yeah,
So,
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, come get
fully
jacked on that
into the-
espresso, man. We got the Chiapas from Mexico, which is really nutty and delicious, and then we also have this Guji from Ethiopia. That's just very berry forward lemonade, just really, really delicious.
Really?
Both of them.
Dude,
If
I
I were
gotta try
you,
that.
you
I
got to do
gotta
both.
try that.
Do both. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly. Dude, I got to try all this.
Well, and you know, it's interesting to me just the fact that y'all have just opened, the success that y'all have had. It seems like South Austin is growing by leaps and bounds, and the fact that y'all have found this niche market.
Yeah.
This one little niche, like there are breweries popping up all over the place in
Yep.
Austin, and right now, like we've got a huge bill before the state and all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
I don't even
Yeah.
know what actually happened with it all. I didn't get to follow it, but
It passed.
Did it pass? That's horrifying.
R.I.P.
Yeah, and basically what that does, people, is it keeps, if I'm not mistaken, breweries that are producing under 100,000 barrels a year from having an active
Yeah.
tap room.
Well-
225.
Dude,
Yeah.
dude, that's
Yeah,
so
and
wrong.
it
dude.
really kind of kills some of the
It
small
kills the
batch
little
industry.
guys.
Yeah.
dude.
Well, for bills such as these, it's a wake up call of the crooked bullshit that happens on a daily basis, and we
yeah.
kind of like
Yes.
we kind of become complacent
That is bullshit.
because we're enjoying really good beer, and then all of a sudden you're just like, oh shit, there are these lawmakers
Yeah.
that just care about getting rich, and they don't care about us,
Right.
and we can't compete, so
Well,
that
really,
sucks.
Really, the problem is that you're with that in place. You are literally stifling the creation of an industry.
Right.
Absolutely.
You know,
Which it should be a no-brainer
Yeah.
for anybody who's
Yeah.
a human being.
Well, and I mean, it's one of those like, how do you get up over that barrel amount?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
sell beer.
Yeah.
You started at some point.
You sell your
you know?
product.
Sure.
And unfortunately, until you get up to a certain amount, distributors aren't going to look at you unless you're doing private distribution or something like that.
Yeah.
Even then, trying to get up over that barrel amount is hard.
It is.
It's not that easy. And as someone who comes from a brewing experience, what kind of impact do you see this having on the industry right now?
It's hard to say right now. I'm very invested in it and emotional.
Yeah.
And
Oh, no, same
without
here.
going into a rant,
Feel free to rant.
I will
Feel
just
free.
say I'm not too fond of it, and I'll keep it positive.
perfectly
Because
understand.
that's one thing that we've really tried to do here at Spokesman is we've tried to create a very positive, warm, welcoming environment. There's a lot of different walks of life, and outside these doors, the world fucking sucks, and it's hard. It's hard as shit, and that's one thing that a lot of people forget because you just eat that giant shit sandwich every
Yep,
day, and you
every
forget
day.
that you forget like,
used to
oh, I can't even taste it anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
So, we want you to come in here and we want you to feel welcome. We want you to feel warm and positive, and it doesn't matter what your religious background, your sexual orientation, who you identify with, your political affiliation, any of that. Like, this is a place where we keep it positive. There's no negative shit that goes down. And if you want to be negative, then there's a trash can right out in the parking lot where you can go live.
Yeah. Feel free to hop out there, Oscar.
Yeah.
Nice Oscar the Grouch style trash can.
Well, and, all too often that is the case, especially in this industry, in the service industry, period. It's really odd to me because I spent years working in bars, helping manage bars and things like that. It's one of those, like, man, if you're miserable behind the bar, why are you behind the bar?
Yeah, no shit.
like sincerely.
You're gonna pass that off to everybody else that's showing up.
Yeah.
If it is the bane of your existence to pour a beer for somebody, why are you making a tap? That should be the most enjoyable thing in the world, man.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, I used to work at Red Lobster. This is probably 2000
okay. Well, I can understand some
2003, 2004. The one right down on South Lamar.
Right,
Okay.
right. I know exactly where.
Yeah. Yeah, Cheddar Bay Biscuits. That's what's up.
Yeah.
I was working a Mother's Day, which is their largest holiday.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's nuts there. And they overstaffed, and there's all these people that are just going crazy. There's moms and grandmas everywhere, and the staff is just hating life. And we're in this one little section in between dining room and dining room where you get all your drinks, and people are just running around like crazy, yelling at each other and stuff like that. And I'll never forget, there was this kid, can't remember his name, but I do know he was from the South because he had this really thick accent. And he's just sitting there watching everybody like run around and be crazy and mean to each other. And it's all loud. And finally he just goes, "Hey!" And everybody looks at him. They get real quiet, and he goes, "It's just a fucking job, man. God damn." And everyone's like, "Oh, yeah. Thank you, hillbilly." Like, "Oh, that's awesome.
Thank you for the perspective.
Yeah. And that's what it is. At the end of the day, it's like, it's just a fucking job. And, there was a lot of people that I worked with when I left the brewing industry after North by, and I went back into waiting tables. I worked at Wine Belly, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
With my good friend Ryan Fulmer. And then got offered a job at Highball from my good friend Heather Smith, Gypsy. What's up? And it was really interesting. And the culture of the service industry is just really sad. There's a lot of alcoholism and depression, mental health issues. And it's like everybody just turns a blind eye. And you get into this repetitive cycle of, okay, I hate my life. I hate my job. I'm going to go there, not make a lot of money because I have a shitty attitude, and then get off of work, drink, smoke, fuck, sleep in, wake up late, feel like shit, go to work. And everyone's like, I don't know what's going on. And it's like,
I don't know what the problem is.
Yeah, and they're like, everything sucks, I'm awesome, this world doesn't get it. And it's just like, man, you get your attitude together, And so when I went back into the service industry, it was awesome for me because I worked industry, and then I went into the brewing part of it, and then went back to it. So I had a completely different mindset when I went back to waiting tables and bartending. Yep. And I also had light at the end of the tunnel because Spokesman was gaining momentum.
Right.
And Trey and I were looking for locations, and we were already funded, and I knew this wasn't it for me.
Yeah.
And a lot of my coworkers didn't really appreciate my positive attitude at times. And, I would just tell them, like, the crazy hillbilly dude, like, it's just a fucking job.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to be here. If you're upset, if you're sad, don't be here.
Don't be here.
Right.
Like,
Don't be here.
yeah, go do something else.
It's the same thing in my industry because people get so jaded, running sound for rock and roll. People get so jaded doing stuff like that, even corporate AV. And it's like, dude, like, people pay me to play with expensive toys all day.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I get.
That's pretty awesome.
I get paid to push buttons and play with people's, like, $10,000 pieces of equipment. Like, what? How awful is
Which
your
part
life
of this
that-
sucks
yeah,
again?
Like, give me one more time how getting paid our rate to unload a truck is not worth it.
Yeah.
And it's just, to me, it's one of those, if you're not loving it, why are you doing it?
Sure.
And I guess I was always brought up that way. And it is kind of an entrepreneurial mindset, quite honestly. It's not a mindset that is for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people that truly love their day job. They love going and clocking in.
Yeah.
Like for me, my go-to job in any city that I ever moved to was I could always go be a prep cook.
Oh, yeah.
And I will come in from 5 a.m. to noon, and your stuff will be diced and chopped.
Yep.
And at noon, I am out. Y'all have a good day.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll see you at 5
Yeah.
a.m.
Yeah, and that's the problem is, like, most people don't know how to compartmentalize their lives. They let everything
Right.
overlap, and
Yeah.
whatever's happening in your daily life comes to your work life, and your coworkers are just, saturated with all your sad, whiny baby bullshit or your drama, and then, of course, that spills over and stuff like that. But for me, every job I worked, I was like, clocked out, boom, see you later. And everyone's like, "Oh, you're not going to stay for a drink?" I'm like, "Fuck no! I work here.
I got things to
You going
do,
to pay
son.
me?
Yeah.
Like, I'm
Is
going to
that
go
a
somewhere else.
Is that a shift drink?
Yeah, exactly.
Am I getting that
And if it
drink
is,
for
I'll
free?
slam it and then I'll get out of
That's
there.
right. Then I'll
So,
leave.
no, I think it's very important to
hell out.
really focus on what you're doing and channel all the energy you can into that particular thing. Like, there's nothing wrong with having things on your mind and working towards something. But if you're working, work. If you're not, relax. And a lot of people don't know how to turn off, and it sucks, but eventually you'll get it. And if you don't, then you don't know what you're missing.
Yeah.
But for me, I got a lot of things going on. I got a life, I got a wife, I got a business, I have a cycling team, I have my own personal time. It's like you gotta make time for you, because
You
if
really
not,
do.
you're just gonna be a stressed out sack of shit
Right.
that is really unpleasant to be around.
Yeah,
Yep.
no, absolutely. And I have found that more
Yep,
and
that's
more
very
as
true.
time goes on. I had years ago a pastor at a church that I worked with tell me that I needed to take one day a week for myself.
Yeah.
And I started kind of following that modicum for a while. And I do it much more now, where it's like, sure, I'll sit at home and maybe I'll solder on some circuits or something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to, like, actively pursue a gig. I'm not going to look for anybody. I'm not going to try and make a contact.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to sit back and relax and let things happen the way they're supposed to happen. And it's amazing whenever you get into that organic concept of seeds that you plant will grow.
Yep.
And you just got to keep sowing seeds. You got to keep watering the ground and just keep at it. It's
Yep.
not always the first crop that takes.
No, no.
And
It's the one that you don't ever expect to come up, and then you're just like, oh shit,
yeah,
here
like,
we are.
Oh, well, crap! I got half a field of this. I
Yeah.
guess I could do something with it. And what was your experience with that as you were starting this? Because it is. It's not all roses. It's not all easy.
No,
And
no.
There's a lot of licensing. There's a lot of, like you said, legal paperwork, trying to find trademarks, stuff like that. What were some of it for those people trying to be entrepreneurs, trying to get out there, trying to start their own things? What would you say were like your top 3 hurdles personally to going at it on your own?
I would say trying to balance the amount of effort that you're putting into the project with the amount of effort you need to put into a job to make money to survive.
Yeah.
That sucks, because your main concern is the building, the construction, all of that good stuff. But then you're like, fuck, I still have to make money. I still have to go do something.
Yeah.
And so when you're still working, that takes up a lot of your time, and it makes all your windows of opportunity so much smaller. So that would be a big one. The second one I would say is probably fighting the urge to talk about it. Like, that is just, it eats you alive, because even though you don't want to brag, you don't want to talk about it, you take pride in what you do. I mean, you should
absolutely.
take pride in what you do, even if it's mowing the yard. You should get done and be like, "Fuck yeah, that yard looks awesome."
Right.
Yeah.
Take some pride in it,
yeah, take some pride. You should take pride in everything you do, because it's your time, and your time is valuable.
That's right.
So whatever you spend your time doing,
Yeah.
it
Oh,
should
yeah.
be of value. And so that was hard, to be around a bunch of people that would talk about what they wanted to do. Oh man, I'm going to open this brewery and we're going to focus on only fucking Puerto Rican pumpernickel ales, and it's
Right.
going to be awesome. And you're just like, oh, okay, cool. And you almost want to shut them up by being
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, do you have an LLC? Do you have a location? Do you have
Yeah.
financing? Do you know what's going on?
Yeah.
So
Have you checked the popularity of a tamarind beer?
no. Yeah, no.
I had a guy on a trip to LA. I was on like, yeah, I'm looking at starting up this brand that's like nothing but tamarind beer.
It's
And I'm
so
like,
fucking stupid.
Okay,
It's so stupid.
That seems like a very niche market.
Yeah. Well, I would always have people say like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna brew this style of beer, and it's awesome because think about it, no one's doing it." And it's like, yeah, there's a
Think
reason
about it.
why no one's doing
Think
it.
about
Like, you're
it.
not a
But
pioneer.
it's funny, though, because, like, here recently in the last year and a half, Shiner Strawberry Blonde has come back on the market.
Yep.
And everybody is like, oh, my God, Shiner came out with this Strawberry Blonde. It's like, oh, no.
It's been
Shiner,
around.
Shiner
Yeah.
rebooted their
Yeah.
Strawberry Blonde from, like,
Yeah, exactly.
1995.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
You know, like, it was so forward thinking.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
if you look back on it,
Yeah.
the craft brewing industry had really not taken off, much less the fruity brewing industry,
Yeah.
the IPA industry, you know, like all the, even now with the sour brews and stuff like that. There's so many different things. Like the one that I had earlier, the
Sour beers,
Yeah,
man.
what was that? It was too sour for you.
That was that was the training binds that I love.
Oh,
that
no,
beer's
no,
awesome.
that one I love. Yeah, that's the
he
one I
rec-
just
the-
had.
the-
Shout out to Joe Moorfield and his crew
Yeah,
crushing
that
the
was-
IPA
dude,
game
I
with
love that.
That was
Pine House.
phenomenal, and that's
It's
my
number
next
15
one.
on the menu.
I also had
Yeah,
one of the-
number 15. Come and get it now.
I also had one of the new River beers.
Oh, man, that beer is
by Hops and
awesome.
Grain.
Yep.
And it is a great smooth lager.
Yep.
It's fantastic.
Shout out to Josh Hare and his
Yeah,
crew.
absolutely. We actually had
Bobs.
our 100th episode over at
The
Hops and
Bob.
Grain.
Yeah.
It is a regular staple in the Dudes and Beer studio.
Cool.
Mosaic and Greenhouse.
Yeah,
and
sure
Shirley.
is.
Yeah, I love those guys. Josh is awesome, man. I knew Josh before he... Listen to me. I'm a fucking dickhead right now. I knew Josh.
I know that guy.
No, I knew Josh back when he was working at Z Tejas because he was a regular of mine when I was tending bar at Uncle Billy's. So
Oh,
it's
wow.
really interesting. Both him and Adam DeBauer were waiting tables before they started their breweries. And they would come in, they'd drink beers with me. And I knew Adam because I met him at GABF back when he was at Flying Dog. But it was really cool because, you know, these two dudes were pretty young and, you know, I was hanging around with a bunch of older brewers and stuff. And,
Right.
of course, they were
Right.
talking about cans. And, you know, I'd go to brewers' nights or other breweries and I'd hear rumblings like, oh, yeah, these fucking kids are going to try and,
Right.
you know, go cans. Like,
Roll
what is this,
their
the,
own
was this the
cans
1970s? You know, take my Raglan shirt out. And, you know, you fast forward to now and you go to the beer aisle and it's all cans. You know,
Yep.
like talk about forward thinking,
yeah.
man. So
Yeah.
I'm really fortunate to know those guys and to be able to see how they struggled. And, you know, both of those dudes and so many others are an inspiration to me on not just a beer level, but just as a human being level. Like,
well,
how do you level up?
Yeah,
you
and not
know?
just and that's just it. That's what I was going to say. Not just their level success here in town, but the fact that they, in such short order, have grown large enough to open up a location
Yeah.
down in not Corpus Christi, but
Most people in
San
Austin
Marcos.
think it's as far as
yeah,
Corpus
No,
Christi.
it's
They
San
live in that
Marcos.
bubble.
It's right down the road.
Yeah.
And, I mean, just the fact that they've already opened up a new location.
Yep.
In that small amount of time, it's only been a couple years.
Yep,
you know?
absolutely.
And to know that their tap room has taken off
Mm-hmm.
like that, like I said, between when the craft brewing industry started, really, and when things like Strawberry Blonde first came out on the market,
Yeah.
it's been over 20 years.
Yeah.
You know, and it took 20 years
Oh,
for
yeah.
that arc of beer type
Yep.
to actually take over the market, to where now you have like apricot ales, you have fruity beers all over the place.
Uh-huh.
So now for it to come out, especially after the popularity of Ruby Redbird, things like that, going seasonal, then going full year round because they were so popular.
Yeah.
They were literally like, let's start small batching this and see
Sure,
what happens.
yeah.
You know, put a couple bottles in each family brew pack.
Yep.
You know, release some 32s here and there, and it became popular. And now it's in cases all over the place.
Yep.
And it's great to see that rebirth of literally 20 years in the background coming back full circle. And, you know, sometimes it takes that long for a trend to catch on. You know, and even seeing the trend that y'all have caught on to here, the numerous things, the concept of cafe, coffee roaster, brew house, bike house,
Yeah.
you know, that you're catering to so many things that are integral to the Austin market.
Yeah,
in and of
absolutely.
itself.
And we're not doing anything that doesn't exist already.
No.
You know, these places exist. They might not be all around in Austin or in Texas for that
Yeah.
matter, but you know, you go to the West Coast and you'll see all kinds of roaster, brew pub,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
shops, all kinds of shit like that. You know, I think for us, we're just trying to do what we do. You know,
Yeah.
there is no theme, there is no shtick. We're not trying to go for a certain demographic. It's like Trey and I have worked in the industry for probably longer than we were legally allowed to work. You know, we've been busting
Yep.
ass and we've been working shitty jobs and we've worked for great people and not so great people and with all types of people. And we've learned from other people's mistakes, and we've also paid attention to people that are successful, and we've taken that to heart. We ask questions, we stay humble, we continue to push ourselves, and we want to do something that makes everyone that supports us proud, because ultimately you guys are the ones that are going to come in. So how do we keep y'all happy? How do we make sure that y'all feel comfortable? It's not about just give me your money, here's a beer.
Right.
It's like, hey, let's talk about this beer. And let me tell you why I have all these beers on. Because they're fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And all the breweries that we associate ourselves with are fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It was really difficult for me to make a tap list of 20. At first I was like, oh, this is going to be easy.
No.
No, it's not
there
easy.
is such a variety in Austin,
It is
Texas.
not easy.
It's phenomenal. And the fact that y'all are using all local breweries for your stuff is pretty great. How many local breweries do you have represented on your? Because there are 20 taps on the wall.
20
here,
taps
folks.
up there. Yeah.
I would say out of the 20, 2 aren't from Texas, and those are wine. I have a Pinot Noir, and a Rosé from Sicily. Other
Okay.
than that, everything's from Texas.
Fantastic.
And I'm not saying I'm Texas only, because I got some good buddies that live in other states.
Sure.
Unfortunately. And they might come
We'll pray
eventually.
for 'em.
Yeah, I'll light a candle or whatever.
They'll wise up.
But I am very locally focused, and it's all about quality, and it's all about freshness. And anybody that knows anything about beers know that the best beers taste the best when they're that close.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
when they come straight out the tap, right into the keg, back into your glass.
into your mouth.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just I'm not opposed to having breweries from out of state, but guess what? There's a bunch of really badass beers from Austin, Texas, and the surrounding areas. And
Appreciate what you got around you.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well, and what are some of your favorites off of your list? Because
Yeah.
I mean, I've
Ooh.
named a couple of mine. One of them, Mosaic by.
Are we talking beer? Because I also got a cider up there from Texas Keeper, which is tasting pretty divine.
Really? Which one is that?
That's the number 12, the number 1 blend. That's a
right.
dry blend of
I'm gonna have to give that a
5
shot
different
here.
apples. Yeah, really tasty.
Nice.
Sometimes you need something dry and delicious to reset your palate. Since I was born, I would always just taste things, and that probably drove my parents crazy because they were like, "Why are you doing that? Spit it out!" And I'm like, "I don't know. I just want to see what it tasted like." But yeah, my palate's all over the board. I'd say right now I'm digging this Grudzinski. That's what I'm drinking right now.
Okay.
This smoked Polish table beer. That beer, I love that beer.
Yeah.
It's so unique, and it's really funny because it's a total 50-50. You're either going to love it or you're going to hate it.
Okay.
And when I first tried it, I was at GABF, and I was chilling with the Live Oak crew. And it was the first year they had it up there, and Dusan's like, "Hey man, let me get you a Grods." It's like Zen Master, 7-foot high Zen Master. It's like this cool. He's like this cool stone giraffe that has long hair. But yeah, he was like, "Hey man, let me get you a Grods," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, like fuck yeah, give me a Grods." And I try it, and the first thing I think is like, "Are these guys fucking with me right now?" Like, and so I didn't want to like give them the benefit of the doubt, and I was like, "Yeah, this is good," and I just like drank it, and I was like, "Man, they're for real right now." I don't know what to think about this beer. It's tart and smoky and, just all these things. And, after I kicked back about 3 pints of it,
So
it
kinda grew on you,
clicked.
huh?
And I was like,
Really?
holy shit,
Yeah.
this is awesome.
Yeah.
But I always say it's a lot like BO. You smell someone's BO and you're just like, ugh, I don't like that. And then you have some lady walk up that y'all might have the same pheromones or whatever,
Sure.
and you smell her and you're just like, oh my God, what is wrong with me?
What's going
I
on
am-
today?
I am rock hard right now.
Yeah.
So it's what,
Good way to
it's
put
just
it too, really.
it's one of those. Yeah, that's the
Exactly.
commercial I just wrote for Grudzinski.
I have to try this beer, and we need to pitch that
Yeah.
tagline to them.
They need to start making a commercial now.
That should be their tagline.
Yeah.
Grudzinski, I'm hard right now.
Yeah, but it's been interesting when someone's like, "What do you guys have?" And it's like, "Well, obviously there's a menu here. What do you like?" And they're just like, I like anything." And I'm like, "Oh, cool. You ever had the Grods?" And they're like, "No." I'm like, check this out." And then I give them a sample, and their face, they're just like, holy shit. I don't know what to think about this. I'm like, "Do you like it?" "I have no idea."
Yeah.
So it's like, okay,
A
cool.
part of me says yes.
Yeah. But aside from that,
Dude, I gotta try that tonight, dude.
yeah, that beer is awesome. And that's a total beer nerd beer. And every
Jeez.
so often you'll get somebody that comes out.
It tastes like cheese.
It does taste like
tastes like
cheese.
cheese?
Oh, yeah,
It's like
you-
funky.
Ooh.
Some fucking cheese.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta try that.
Aside from
Dude, I
that,
love cheese.
man, the Real El Goza is my jam right now.
Oh, yeah?
And if you come back tomorrow, we're getting a keg of the El Guapo, which is a mezcal barrel-aged goes. And you can try them side by side right here at Spokesman, 440 East St Elmo, Building A2.
Shameless self-promotion. Do that one more time.
Yeah, exactly. But no, we have awesome beers, and to tell you the truth, there's not anything on the draft list right now that I'm not stoked on. It took me a little while to really dial in what my parameters were going to be once I started buying beer, and when I first sat down to make the beer list, I sat for like 15 minutes in front of my computer. I was like, I have no fucking clue where I'm going to start.
Yeah.
And then I was like, all right, you know what? I'm just going to make my own beer list. Things that I would be interested in. If I saw on the board, I'd be really excited. All of a sudden, I have 50 beers, and they're all IPAs and lagers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, this isn't going to work. So I started scaling back, and really what I got down to is I have to be stoked on the beer. So it has to be a great representation of style, a really creative take on a style, or a showcase of ingredients. So if the malt or the yeast, the hops, if they shine, those are the beers that I want on, because I want my staff to get jazzed about it and get the customer stoked about it and be like, oh man, you got to try this. This is, we had this beer a couple weeks ago called Grinds My Gears from Austin Beer Works.
Yeah.
And that beer was awesome. It was so exciting because it was an ale that was fermented with Hefeweizen yeast. So you didn't
That
get...
one was so good.
Wasn't it?
Yeah,
Oh,
it was.
man. And you didn't get the same experience you get with the Hefeweizen because there was absolutely no wheat in the malt bill. So it was a showcase of Hefeweizen yeast. And there was a lot of people that were just like, I don't fucking like Hefeweizens. I'm like, well, let me try this.
That's
And they'd be
'cause
like,
that's
holy
'cause
shit.
You're drinking the wheat brew, though. and
Exactly.
I mean, if you subtract that, then you get all the lemony,
Totally
rimey
different,
goodness and citrus.
But it's stuff like that, I want beers that are exciting, that get people excited. And I also want to align myself with breweries that have good standings within the community, both on the industry and the consumer side, and that treat their employees like human beings.
Sure.
So it's very important for me to have these awesome beers on tap, but at the same time, I want our customers to go to those tap rooms and to visit those breweries and be like, oh man, well, if you like, the Van Dam, then you should go over to East Austin and check out all the other cool stuff that Blue Owl has. If you like the coffee porter from Last Stand, jump in your car and go down to Last Stand, check out what they have in the tap room. So it's an incentive to get these beers in people's heads and to become more familiarized with them and create that attachment that sometimes they might lose just by seeing something on the board.
Or just seeing something on the shelf. Sometimes it's, quite literally, it's gotten to where in the liquor store, in the grocery store, the craft beer section is absolutely enormous now. Even the place right across the street from our studio has just this incredible craft brew section.
Yeah.
It's one of
They've
those
got a
like
huge selection.
Where is this?
It's the Hula Hoo right up the road.
Oh, yeah, right down the street.
Yeah, we're right over at South Austin Music Rooms, and it's one of those like, they got such a great selection, and it's hard not to just gravitate toward what you're used to. So
And I've
coming
noticed
to
they'll get
places-
new stuff too. And
and
change up
if
things,
you
you
tell
know?
them you're looking for something,
Yeah.
they'll find
Yeah.
it. That's what's amazing about it. Like for a corner store,
Yeah.
it was like, whoa,
Yep.
seriously? Like you went out of your way to
Exactly.
find this for me.
Yeah.
But to come to somewhere like this that literally does rotate the taps out, that literally does like put the new stuff from breweries on tap, things like that, to purposefully expose people to the new things that are coming out.
Absolutely.
The new stuff, the new exciting things that brewers are doing, like all the sour beers coming out of Blue Owl, stuff like that. Like that's a huge new part of the industry.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to me how it's really taken off. The sour brew process and everything else.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And I think a lot of that has to do with, the generational change in consumerism. There's a lot of kids that are now adults that they might not know that they're adults, but they are.
Yeah.
And they grew up eating candy. The older generation didn't grow up eating candy and
Especially
Sour Patch Kids and Warheads and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you have a bunch of us that, we drink a beer and we're just like, holy shit, this is just like Warhead. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And there's more of an appreciation. So I think that has something to do with it. And then also the amount of exposure that craft breweries have gotten has really opened people's eyes and their minds to being more, just willing to try something new And because you can always order a sample or a half pint. Like, who can't drink a half pint?
Yeah.
Just go for it. And if you like it, then cool. Just chug it.
Chug
that
down.
shit. Chug it
that
down.
shit.
Yeah.
Now, what is it, before we wrap up, because we're getting close to an hour or so here, but what is it that you look for in a beer whenever you go out? Whenever you're looking for a new beer on tap, something like that, what is it that you normally gravitate towards?
I usually gravitate towards customer service.
Nice.
Really?
Yep.
Nice. Yeah,
Nice.
that's really cool.
Absolutely. Because it's not always about the beers.
Yeah.
For us, Spokesman, Trey and I don't want to be the spokesman for this place. We don't want to be up there being like, hey, you guys got to check us out. We're super cool. We got graffiti everywhere. There's a movie playing. There's, all this stuff.
Yeah,
we got
right.
beers. That doesn't matter, because if the beers aren't good and if the service isn't good and if the coffee isn't good, then who fucking cares?
Yeah.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, if you don't have a good product,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how many Instagram followers or really cool T-shirts you have on your online store. You have to have a good product. That's the only way you're going to survive. And the product isn't always just the actual product. It's also the environment,
Yep.
the staff, the cleanliness, the overall experience.
Right.
So for us, the spokesman of Spokesman is the spot itself, and that's why we purposely didn't do any construction updates of photos or, sneak peeks or anything, because, when you're in construction, you're in purgatory. The time doesn't exist.
Yeah, you're in flux.
Yeah, exactly.
You have no idea how long a permit will take to come through.
And even though we were really excited to get the roaster, we didn't know when we were going to be able to fire it up. Just because we got stuff on the walls doesn't mean we're going to open soon. So we purposely flew under the radar, and we're still trying to fly under the radar. We're not trying to whore ourselves out and take out ads and do all this stuff, because we're here for the neighborhood. We're here for everybody that's south of Ben White that has felt left out without having their own spot to go to. And if you think on a local level, you should spend money in your neighborhood, because that's how your neighborhood's going to continue to grow.
Yes.
And so we are here for the hood. We're here to help facilitate South Austin, to bring all these badass beers a little closer to home and just give you a spot that's yours, because you deserve it.
Yeah. Well, and that's just it.
It's a good way of putting it.
Everybody, I mean, growing up in the 80s, there was Cheers. And there was the
love it.
concept of the barfly, and the guy, like I had my bar back home where, like, I was talking with my mother-in-law earlier and cousin, where it was like, I didn't pay a bar tab. I stayed until closing, and I helped restock.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they knew me, and I knew the
Yeah.
owner,
Right.
and like I helped them while they counted the drawer. I restocked the beer, and I kept the ladies safe while they were by themselves doing a night drop.
That's awesome. I used to work with this really awesome bartender by the name of Terry Sessions, and if you get an opportunity, go by Whip In, because she still works there.
Nice.
And at the end of the night at Uncle Bill, she's a tiny little lady, maybe 100 pounds, and at the end of the night, she would have to go take the mats out, and of course, like 2 of these mats weigh more than her.
Oh, yeah.
And so the regulars would help her take the mats up, put the stools up, and things like that. And it was just such a warm feeling knowing that you're not on your own. You're not just. People aren't, like, if you're working behind the bar, people aren't just nice to you because you're giving them booze. People are nice to you because they genuinely care about you.
Right, yeah.
And there would be times where, Terry would go out of town and the regulars would be extremely concerned. Where's Terry? I haven't seen Terry. Like,
Right,
well, she's out of town. Oh, okay, cool, good.
Yeah.
And that's the cheers. That's the cheers
Yeah,
effect.
exactly.
So
And it is really the concept of a neighborhood bar, somewhere that you can go to after work, have a couple
Sure.
pints, hang out, see familiar people.
Yep.
Have a familiar conversation. Enjoy your favorite pastry from Crema.
Yep.
Things
Absolutely.
like that. And the fact that y'all are incorporating so many local things that are people's favorites, as well as your own new favorites, your own version of coffee roast, your own version of espresso, things like that. Like, you're adding your own flavor to it, and that's absolutely passionate and fantastic.
Yep. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
So,
Very much so. Yeah.
as we close out, tell everybody where they can go. This is your chance to actually shamelessly self-promote. Feel free to tell everybody where they can go to like you on Facebook, Twitter, the Instagrams.
Yeah,
where
for
are
sure.
You on the interwebs?
You can find us at Spokesman Coffee all across the board. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, eHarmony, Farmers Only, all that
E
good
Harmony.
stuff. Yeah, we're in
I
it.
am
we want to meet everybody.
I'm married, but I'm starting an
I like
eHarmony
that.
account
Yeah.
tomorrow. Just to,
Or you can meet us at the rest stop in between Houston and Austin on the third Friday of every month.
Third Friday.
Bring good beer. No, follow us on Spokesman Coffee all across the board. You know, we try and do our best to keep everything updated. If you're ever looking for an updated draft list, go to spokesmancoffee.com. I keep an updated draft list. As soon as I take something off the board, I update the list, so it's always going. I think that's really important.
Kind of like
you know.
number 6 and 9 kind of being updated maybe right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we don't have anything on number 6 because we're getting a keg of dispensary IPA from Hops and Grain tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. And then, of course, the El Guapo, which is coming tomorrow. So we're going to have a lot of exciting stuff. And, of course, once we get up and rolling, we're going to be rolling out happy hours, weekly specials, doing a lot of beer events and things like that.
Well, and we definitely love to come back and be a part of
Hell
those things.
yeah.
Anytime,
Come back.
man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dude, wouldn't want to miss.
And, you know, one more time, CJ, tell everybody where they can go to check out the beer list, where they can go to follow you.
spokesmancoffee.com or at Spokesman Coffee all across the board. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Follow us. We're out there. We want to hear from you, too.
That's exactly it. And, you know, we love to hear from people, too. While you're online, checking out spokesmancoffee.com.
Check
please,
it all out.
Please go online. Check out dudesandbeer.com. You can find all the episodes there. You can also download the free Dudes and Beer app. Chat with us while we are online. CJ, I cannot thank you enough for being a part of this episode.
Hell yeah.
Thank you so much. Until
awesome.
next time, everybody, if you can't be good, be good
Thanks
at
for
it.
listening
We'll
to
talk
this
to you
episode
soon.
of the Dudes and Beer Podcast.
To listen to our audio streams and chat with us live, download the official Dudes and Beer app for both Android and iDevices, available on the Google Play and iTunes markets. For more episodes, content, and information, visit us online at dudesandbeer.com. You can also find our episodes on Spreaker, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast service. Dudes and Beer is a proud member of the Revolution Digital Group family of podcasts. Thanks for listening, everybody, and until next time, drink responsibly.